Today's topic, we are talking about performance reviews. And I love this topic because people don't typically think about it. They don't typically think about their performance reviews until it is, there we go, until the company or their manager mentions it. The reason why I'm talking about performance reviews now, and I'll talk about them every day and every month, is because you should be thinking about it every day and every month. Maybe not every day, but in the things that you're doing. And we're going to go through specifically what you should be doing, what you should be thinking about, and the main things that you can do to make sure that you're not leaving money on the table. One of the main things is that you should be thinking about your performance review, and not just when your manager or the company is saying that company-wide performance reviews will be happening, or departmental. So that is what we're going to get into today. So for those who are just joining me, just following me, I am Jackie Mitchell, your career consultant. I work with professional women and I help them level up in their careers, help them achieve the heights that they achieve, to the heights that they want to go, and the different goals that they achieve, that they set for themselves. So thank you guys for joining. So we're going to talk about performance reviews. Like I said, performance reviews. Everything that I talk about, every tip that I give, all of the posts that I make, anything that you hear me talk about, comes from real life experience. So for those who don't know, my background is in project management and executive program management. And what I have done in my career, I have aligned myself with larger initiatives, working on huge initiatives. And I had to gradually get there. So that's part of why I am a career coach, to help other women exceed and achieve different things in their careers and get to where they want to go. I ultimately moved from being a full-time employee to a contractor, to a consultant, really, to more of a consultant. And there's a path to doing that. And there are things that you should be doing and need to do to ascend to certain heights, and not just a consultant, a successful consultant, right? So everything that you hear me talk about is not book knowledge or Google knowledge or things like that. It is information from a wealth of sources, a lot of them being mentors that I've had. And it's things that I have specifically used, and things that I have done, things that I've tried, some things that worked out, some things didn't. But the things that worked out is what I am giving to you in pretty much anything that I'm telling you, anything that I train on, anything that I talk about. And they all come from the same place. It is rooted in the foundation of project management. That is a skill set that you can take, and it's a transferable skill set in any career. So the things that I am telling you and showing you how to do, what to do, is rooted in that. And any project manager or program manager will tell you that these are transferable skills. The things that I'm showing you, teaching you, these are all skill sets that you can learn, things that you can implement, and you'll see traction in your career. You'll see yourself moving forward. So let's dive in. Let's dive into performance reviews. So like I said, where I started, why now? You should be thinking about performance reviews, or your performance review, throughout the year. And if you were listening last week, I kind of gave a hint to it. And one of the bases of this would be partnering with your manager, managing up. That is one of the key things that you would be doing. You may be wondering, okay, or you may be saying, we just did our performance reviews company-wide in March. Typically, that what I've seen and within my career, typically companies will do performance reviews in March, annual reviews. Sometimes companies will have quarterly, but mainly you'll see it around the end of the first quarter for the previous year. That's fine. That is totally okay. But I do have something for those whose companies do not do performance reviews. A little bit of a shame on you on that, but I'll tell you how to make sure that you create your own. But before we go into that, yes, so companies typically in March, end of Q1, they will do the actual review, but the preparation for it may be December or January, early January. And what you'll notice, and for those who go through this or just have gone through this recently, January through March, or maybe even February, you'll start to see where, your manager may be talking about, looking at your objectives that you set for the previous year or your goals, having you set a date for the actual conversation, the performance review, doing 360s, I believe that's what they're called, reviewing yourself, doing your own personal assessment, and then having others do assessments. Those are very interesting. I teach my clients how to navigate that. But you'll start to see all of that action and, things happening during that time frame, January through February, March. What you should be doing, what you should be thinking about. So let's say, for argument's sake, this is your first time meeting me, talking with me. You've just had a review. All is not lost. Don't worry. All is not lost. All is not lost. You can always prepare. You can always prepare for the next thing. You can always prepare for the next review. Let's say it's annual. You can prepare for next year. If it's quarterly, you can prepare for the next quarter. But what you want to do is set expectations. So now I'm going into what you should be doing. You should be setting expectations. If you are in a job, in your career, in your role, in a position that you love, but you're not necessarily loving the salary, or there's certain aspects to it that you don't like, it is on you to make changes. It is not on anyone else to create an environment for you or to do anything else for you. It's for you to really make a change. It's for you to look at the landscape and say, okay, what are some of the things that I can be doing to help get me to where I want to go? If you listened last week, one of those things was partnering with your manager and managing up. That is key to every and anything that I'm talking about within your career, because you're not working in a silo. You shouldn't work in a silo. If you are heads down and you're playing it safe and you really don't want to, you want to fly under the radar, so to say, you want to go in, do your job and go home, you cannot expect much. But if you are in it for that, then that's great. But I am talking to those specifically who are high achievers, who want to succeed, who want to get to certain levels, who want to have the comfort of enjoying a great salary, a great compensation. How do you do that? You cannot fly under the radar. You cannot just accept what is just given to you. A key thing in what I teach and what I preach is owning your career. Nobody will own it for you. You are responsible for your career. Don't, shoot darts at the screen. You are responsible for your career. And I do get it that there are several different variables, many different things that could be coming at you, or you're feeling like you're behind the eight ball, because there are times that we are. There may be certain biases or whatever. Those are special circumstances, but there is still a way to move past that and get through that. Right? So flying under the radar does not do you any justice. If you want to fly under the radar, log off, shut down. This is totally not for you. If you have low confidence or you're an introvert, it's okay. I can help you get to that next level. I can help you navigate through that, even if you are an introvert. There's so many things that you can do with that. Because you don't necessarily have to be the loudest in the room. You don't want to be the loudest in the room, but you want to have influence and you want to have impact. Those are the two key things. Influence and impact is something that you want to have, and something that you want to be is thinking about who you need to be, who you want to be. And if you've listened to the last episode of my podcast, Bench Talk, that's what I'm talking about. Who do I need to be? Who do I need to become to get to where I want to go? Right. So if you're an introvert, do you necessarily need to be an extrovert? No, but there are certain things that you can do to make sure that you are top of mind to make sure that you're not flying under the radar. So like I said, if you are and want to fly under the radar, this is not for you. This is for those people who have, high goals, high expectations of themselves and want to achieve that. So your performance review, you want to make sure that you have the influence and that you are influential. You want to be an influencer, and that you have the impact. One of the key things to do in doing that, and I'm giving you literally what I tell and talk to my clients about and teach them, you want to look at your sphere of influence. Who are the people that can help me to get to where I want to go? But even before you do that, you want to think about what are your career objectives. You want to have those conversations with your manager, not specifically career objectives outside of that company, but you want to frame it within the scope of work that your manager is doing, not necessarily just yours, but within the scope of work of the your manager and what they're responsible for, and also within the company. So let's say you want to get to a next level. I'm going to use project management. You're a junior PM. You want to get to PM1. You want to get to a PM2 or PM3. You want to express that, right? And so how do you set goals to get there? You cannot do that in a vacuum. You have to speak with your manager and asking them specifically, straight to the point, what are the expectations of someone who wants to get to whatever that next level is for you? Period. Ask them to quantify what that is, to tell you what it is, and to quantify it. When you have that information, guess what? Those are your goals. Those are your goals. So you really should not, and this is key, you want to do what's called stretch goals, right? You want to have what's called stretch goals. And again, taking from project management, you can apply this to any area in your life, any industry that you work in. What are stretch goals? Stretch goals are those goals that are, if I put this for career, that are, you may think they're out of reach. They may be pushing the limit for you. It may be something that you're not very comfortable with, but that's okay. You want to have steps to get there. What are those objectives? What are those steps to get there? And some of those things may be helping your manager with certain projects. If you're already in an executive or in a director type role, look at who you're reporting to, what leadership is doing, because you're already in the leadership team, right? What are the things that you want to do and have under your belt? Who are you reporting to? What are some of the things that you want to help them with, right? So it doesn't matter which level of your career you're in, what level of your career you're in, you can always look for that stretch goal and create objectives, smaller goals to get there. Those are the things that should be on your performance review in that section. If we're talking about what that looks like in the section for goals, right? You don't want to keep them so narrow and so low, and I'm going to say low, whereby if there are metrics, and yes, sometimes there are KPIs that you have to meet, that's fine. But you don't want to necessarily, let me use a project management example, keep them so constrained to your specific responsibility and just slightly moving up. So let's say a KPI for a new project manager or a project manager in your role is successfully completing 5 projects within a 12-month period. Okay, fine. What would the next level be? It would not necessarily be completing 10 projects, but it may be something like, supporting or saving the organization $5,000 within $500,000 within the next 12 months. You see what I'm saying? So it's a little bit of a stretch, but it will help you get to where you want to go. Specifically with project management, saving money, decreasing what you're spending, i.e. saving money, looking at budgets and things like that, it helps the bottom line. So having goals in mind for that will help you get to where you want to go, because now they're looking at, oh, this person is a strategic thinker. This person is someone who plans ahead. This person is thinking not only of themselves, but of the organization as a whole. And if you think within the department, again, what are some of the things your manager would be doing, or what are their KPIs? How can you help them achieve that? That's the mindset you want to have when you're going in to do your performance review goal setting. So let's just say goal setting for the next year, or goal setting for the upcoming quarter, or each quarter. Break it out into quarters. There are four quarters in each year, right? So you want to break that out into each quarter. What are the things that I can do in Q1 to help me to get to that major goal? What are the things that I need to do in Q2, Q3, and Q4 is really where you're wrapping up. Many companies are slowing down. If you're on a calendar year, many companies are slowing down, or they're ramping up so that they could get things done for that calendar year and then start for the next year. But you want to think about goals in that manner, right? And so when you are setting those goals, you now this is number 2, you want to have the conversation with your manager and set the expectation around those goals. And these goals, we're going to call them stretch goals right now, for lack of a better term. Yes, I do know what stretch goals are in project management. It's not that I don't know, but for the purposes of what we're doing, we're going to just call these stretch goals, right? You want to stretch yourself. You want to see where you can go. You want to ascend, right? You want to get to those places. So setting the expectation with your manager around those goals. In addition to doing that, the first thing that I said is to find out from them, what are the expectations of someone who wants to get to that next level? The two should match, be very similar. So in the goals, or in the expectations, now you write those into goals. You don't have to start from the bottom, not the bottom, from a blank slate. Oh my goodness, they want me to write goals. I have no idea. Start having the conversation. Thank you, Resume Workshop. Start having the conversation with your manager about what does it take to get to the next level. That's where you start with your goals. I see people go crazy trying to figure out, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. Or I've seen goals where, and as a hiring manager myself, I've been that. I've seen goals where it literally is your job description. You have sat down and they've sat down and written out, what their job description is, or they'll write just a few bullet points. I want to learn how to do this. I want to learn how to do that. Those are not things that will help you to get to the next level. So when you're a high achiever, you want to become a top performer. Okay? That's kind of sliding into number 3, a top performer. When you're a top performer, you're going to tie those goals that you set that are aligned with your manager's expectations of a top performer who wants to get to the next level. You're going to align those, or set the expectation that you are expecting compensation for achieving those goals. Period. It is not rocket science. It is not difficult. It is not a huge formula on how to do it. It honestly is. Be a top performer. Period. That's it. That is the key thing. We could have wrapped this up in 2 seconds at the very beginning if I said be a top performer, but I wanted you to understand what you need to do to get there. A top performer is someone who exceeds expectations. A top performer sets high goals. They set the bar high. They set the bar not high just for them, but looking at, okay, like I said last week, how do I help my manager to be successful? How do I make their life easier? Because honestly, when you do that, you're pretty much, starting that machine on, hey, I can count on this person. I can count on this person. They have exceeded. They are now, in my eyes, as a hiring manager or a manager, they're a top performer, and I want to keep them. I don't want to lose them. So make yourself, lack of a better term, indispensable. Have them needing you and wanting you, and making sure that, yes, this person is a top performer. I want to make sure that I compensate this person well so they can stay, so that they want to stay, and we can continue that relationship building, where we are building on what we have, building on this department's goals, building. And there you have it. It really, honestly, is not difficult. It is getting your head out of the sand, really understanding the goals around you. And what I mean by that, again, looking at your manager, because you don't have to try to pull things out of the air. What do I do? What do I do? Have a conversation with your manager. That is probably one of the most important relationships that you can have when you're working for an organization. The relationship that you have with your manager, and of course with your peers, and also with your manager's peers. You want to be the person that they're looking to, not the person who, they'll do it, but the person that they know that, one, has built credibility, has built trust, and has built respect. Those are the things. And becoming a top performer, being a top performer, and maintaining that reputation will help you get to where you want to go. How do I know that? I have been and am a top performer. How do I do that? I talk with my managers. I have talked with them. I have found out what their pain points are. I was like, if I help you do that, what's in it for me? Because everyone's thinking, what's in it for me? Honestly, they're thinking, what's in it for me? So if you're helping them get to where they want to go, they're going to in turn help you. If you're helping them get to where they want to go, they want to make sure that they keep you around. And one of the motivating factors for a lot of people is compensation. So let's say, for argument's sake, and I have friends who are in HR and friends who I've worked with, who gave me the scoop on some of the things that really happens, where a department is given X amount of dollars for increases. I do that, right? Increases. And a manager can maybe only give one or two. Let's say there's a department of 8 and they can only give 1 or 2 increases or what have you. There are companies that do that. There are departments and managers and, in certain industries and departments that do that. And they will look to see, okay, who will I give this increase to? And typically it's the person that helps them. It's the person that is the top performer. It's not rocket science. If you work in an organization where they're fair across the board, which we would love them to be, you have that conversation, and regardless, you still have that conversation with your manager about your expectations on tying compensation with these goals that you set. But they cannot be rinky-dinky goals. They have to be stretch goals. And you're not out in the vast wilderness, out in the ocean thinking, oh my God, I set these goals. How the heck am I going to reach them? Now, the other conversation on the other side of that is talking again, communicating with your manager. How can you help me to succeed? What are the things that, if first for you want to have that conversation with yourself, what are the things that I need? Is there training involved? Is there shadowing involved? Do I need to work in another department for a little bit? That sounds crazy. It sounds like, oh, we can't do that because I have my day job. But think about it. When you're setting goals and you're aligned with your manager about these new goals, you're pretty much creating a new job description. There are new responsibilities. So what are they going to typically do? A good manager will typically do this. They will take your old responsibilities and give them to someone else. Or They will carve out time for you to work on these new projects or these new responsibilities. And that is where you come into the picture, where you're having that conversation. Okay, what about what's already on my plate? How do we make this work? It's not for you to take all of this extra stuff and then go back and just curse them out behind, when you get home or when you log off and saying, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? Jackie said to do stretch goals. No, you want to set expectations. You want to have boundaries. You want to make sure that these are things that you can do, but looking at what you have on your plate, how do we get those things off so that you can now work on these new things, these new objectives, things that will help you to get to where you want to go? How do we do that? It's all in having conversation. It's all in having conversation. And it's not a conversation that you just have one day. You're building it and you're building it. And that's why I say, performance reviews are not just an annual event where you're only thinking about it 1 month or 1 week of the year. You're constantly thinking about it. Why? Because when you set your stretch goals and when you're setting these objectives and you're hitting these objectives, you want to stay top of mind with your manager. Hey, I just hit this thing. Okay, good. Now here's another one. I just hit this goal. I just hit this goal. I just hit that goal. It's not a weekly conversation, obviously, but you want to set a cadence with them that is comfortable for them and comfortable for you, but you want to stay top of mind. You want them to know, yes, I've completed and exceeded these things, so that when you sit down at that table for the formalized performance review, you've already set the expectation that, yes, these are the things that will help me get to where I want to go. But in addition to that, these are the things that will help get me the raise that I'm looking for, right? And so that's the conversation that you want to have when you're sitting down. You're not going to talk about compensation for the first time at the performance review. You're talking about compensation, not dollars. You're not going to talk about that, but you're going to talk about tying these stretch goals with compensation. It is not an easy conversation for those who are not comfortable, but you have to, if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. You will be very surprised with managers who will go to bat for you, managers who will negotiate with you and say, okay, well, I can't do this, but I may be able to do this thing. So there's so much room for negotiation when you have the conversation early enough, not at the end, not when it comes to sitting down at that table and doing that performance review. The conversation is early on. During the year, performance review, you're thinking about what that is. You're thinking about what's on my goals list. What are my objectives? As you're working on a daily basis and weekly basis, part of this is time management. As you're working, you want to think about what you're working towards. Am I doing a task or am I doing something that is helping me get to where I want to go? If not, reevaluate why you're doing it. Period. Is it something that you can delegate to someone else? If you can, then do that. But on a daily basis, kind of think about it, have that in the back of your mind. Are the things that I'm doing on a daily basis helping me to get to where I want to go? And also, you want to make sure that the objectives that you set, the goals that you set, that you are working on those weekly, monthly, whatever that looks like for you, you are working on those so that you can hit that and exceed it. Whew. That was a lot. That was a lot. That it really, in a nutshell, is what it is. Performance reviews. It's not an annual one-time, I'm gonna just talk with them one time about it and that's it. It's having influence and having impact, and again, managing up. That will help you. That will help you in the long run, and that's what I talked about. The other thing that I want to leave you guys with this as well. There are situations where, there's two things actually. There's situations where you're in a company and they don't do reviews. What do you do? Well, I'm going to say shame on you. If one, you didn't know that. Two, if you knew it and you took the job anyway, there are things that you can do. You can still do what I just said. It just may not be a formalized review, or online system, but you want to stay top of mind. You still want to set goals. You still want to set those stretch goals with your manager. You still want to have the meetings with your manager. And you still most definitely want to have the compensation conversation early on, where you're tying those stretch goals to the expectation of compensation. And then here's the difference with this one. Now you're setting a timeline with them on when you should hit those goals, right? And looking back and saying, okay, let's set some metrics, let's set some KPIs, let's set some milestones. And in that's now where you're having the conversation about, okay, compensation. Even if they're not doing regular performance reviews, whether it's quarterly or yearly, you want to still have that conversation. Now, this is for everybody, whether your company does it or not, performance reviews or not. You must be ready for anything, any outcome. It may very well be a situation where you've had the conversation about compensation, and things were said and agreed upon, but now comes time for the actual review and for that compensation conversation and what they can do. Don't talk yourself out of it. See what happens, talk about it, see what happens. And if by chance they renege, or they're saying, oh, we can't do this, or it's not what you want, you have to be prepared to walk away. And when I say walk away, I mean leave that table. When I say leave the table, I mean you're thinking about, now, what are my other options? You have to be prepared for that. Within your career, you have to be prepared to take your talents elsewhere, because you want to make sure that, one, you are your expertise, the things that you do, the value that you bring, and all of that is appreciated and, recognized, and that you're compensated well for it. Companies will pay to keep you there. If you are not being compensated the way that you believe fairly you should be, and getting raises on a regular basis, ask yourself, why are you still there? There may be situations where you feel that you need to be there to gain additional experience, but here's where we talk about those stretch goals. If you've already met those and you've gained that experience, you can take that elsewhere. The best way to get a raise is to get another job. And that is a whole different topic that I teach my clients. That's a totally different topic. But everyone will tell you the best way to get a raise is to get another job, to look for another opportunity elsewhere. It sounds easy. It kind of is easy, just how to do that. I've done it. And the conversation around that is not a difficult conversation at all, because you've set goals, you've gotten the experience, you have the skill set. So now where can I take this? And now what is the value that I bring? And now let's look at compensation, and you can now go for what you want. So when you get to that table and you're having that conversation and things aren't going the way that you want it to go, you now have options. And so that's what all of this is about, having influence and impact and having options. That was the third thing. So I hope you guys got good information from this, that you got some key points. If you did, put a 1 in the comments and let me know. If you're on replay, type in replay and put a number 1 in the comments and let me know. As I want to continue to provide you guys some really good information, some good tips that you may not be hearing elsewhere. People are holding on to it or what have you, but I want to give you some tips that you can definitely utilize and use in your career to help you move forward. Thank you, everybody.